Both cars were built to compete in the world of muscle cars. That growing segment between power and ponies of the 1960s and into the 70s. They weren't originally built off the same platform, but eventually their time would bring the two of them even closer together. But by the end, only one of them would become a main victor, while the other would be lost to the sands of time. But at least this time when it faded out in the biggest way possible. Today we're going to take a look at the Charger and Challenger. Welcome back to the AutoLooks podcast. I am your host, as always, the doctor to the automotive industry, Mr. Everett J, coming to you from our main host website at AutoLooks.net. If you haven't been there, stop by, check it out, read some of the reviews, check out some of the ratings, and go to the Corporate Links website page. Big or small, we have them all. Corporate websites for any major automotive corporation, and even the small ones from around the globe, all available on the AutoLooks Corporate Links website page. The AutoLooks podcast is brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by podbean.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us, send us an email over at email@autolooks.net. So like I said in the beginning, the Charger and Challenger. Yes, both of them were built in the end of the 1960s to compete in the burgeoning muscle car era that was growing through the baby boom generation. Muscle cars were becoming big things, and with the introduction of both the GTO by jamming a big block engine underneath the hood of a standard Tempest, and the Ford Mustang being built off the Ford Falcon platform, showing us pony cars. Fun small packages with powerful engines can give us what we really want. The muscle car era was upon us, and Dodge wasn't going to sit and let the competition win the day. Where the Camaro and Firebird had already beaten the Charger and Challenger to the marketplace, Dodge was hard at work trying to figure out how they can go about competing in this marketplace. Expanding upon the Plymouth Valiant and the Barracuda market, Dodge first released the 1966 Dodge Charger into the world with a sportback appearance. This Charger wouldn't become synonymous with muscle car era. It wasn't until the introduction in 1969 of its replacement, the second design iteration and second generation of the Dodge Charger, which would become so synonymous with the world of muscle cars. But as the Charger was coming out to the marketplace, a new car was being built under both Dodge and Plymouth to compete against the Mustang Camaro. In the rise of the pony cars, the Challenger and Cuda would eventually come out. Originally built and sold at the end of 1969 as a 1970 model, the Challenger and Cuda both were made to compete against the Mustang head-to-head. With its first generation arriving and running between 1969 and 1974, the Challenger was here to stay. Unlike its brother, the Charger, the Challenger was both available in coupe and convertible with both an inline 6 and V8, where the Charger was just big block power and balls deep, go straight attitude. With the Charger growing and being more utilized for stock car racing, the Challenger and Cuda were being utilized for the Trans Am circuit. As they were better built to handle corners compared to its Charger brethren, they were hitting the racetracks, while the Charger was hitting the sloped tracks, eventually giving way to the Charger Daytona concept, which eventually would hit the road and become one of the fastest stock cars in the 1970s, and cementing the Charger as a key player in the muscle car era. Only building a few due to homogenization rules, the Charger Daytona and Plymouth Superbird would become one of the most famous dedicated built stock cars for the road. The Challenger would only have the Rally, the Standard, the TA, and the RT variations, with the Rallies being more bread and butter between the SCCA Can-Am racing circuit. But where the Charger was all about power, the Challenger was all about fun. And with a convertible top, it gave its customers something else that the Charger would not. By the second generation of the Challenger and both the third generation of the Charger, by the mid-70s, the Charger would not grow up, but essentially just grow out. And by 1975, the Charger would slowly become more of a Grand Touring product, not the balls-deep Charger that once existed. Between 69 and 70, the 73 would be its last iteration as a true muscle car, with by 1975, the Charger would give way to a more secluded suburban appeal. The Challenger wouldn't do this. He would disappear for 3 years, only to come back in 1977 and live a short 6 years based off of a Mitsubishi Galant Lamba coupe. Yes, if you didn't know it, both the Challenger and Charger existed in the late 70s and early 80s after the fall of the gas crisis. But unfortunately, the Challenger would not return with its convertible sibling. Although it only lasted 2 years in the 70s and sold over 165,000 first generations, the second generation Challenger would never live up to its original brother. Originally built off the Colt platform and having a cousin of the Plymouth Sapporo, the Challenger wouldn't live as long as the Charger would. The Charger eventually would be replaced and move on to the Conquest, Laser, and Daytona platforms, living a very short life but getting its own Shelby package, trying to bring the Charger nameplate back to the forefront of the power-branded image, where the Challenger would just fall by the wayside and disappear from the market, having everybody forget that there was once a Mitsubishi-derived Challenger. Yes, Mitsubishi built the second-generation Challenger. And similar to that of the Dodge Charger of 1975, the Challenger would lose its image, giving way to the Mustang and the Camaro, where the Mustang shrunk itself back down to being on the Fox platform, built off of the original Pinto variation. The Camaro and Firebird would move up and keep with their big, burly appeal. Where the Mustang was more about small, compact package and a lot of power, the Firebird and Camaro were more about cruising with that power. And if you didn't know, there actually was a 4-cylinder Camaro back in the 1980s. Of course, there was one of the Mustang too, but most of us don't remember that. Unfortunately, the Challenger-Charger combo would never live up to what the pony and muscle car era would become in the 1980s, giving way to the Asian invasion and basically becoming part of it. The sports cars of the next generation of the Charger and Challenger would eventually fall by the wayside and get lost in the history books of automotive culture, not having a strong enough name and enough power behind them. Even with the Dodge Daytona Superbird behind it, the Charger nameplate would not live on. On the other side of the pond, the Charger nameplate would live on in both Brazil and as the Valiant Charger in Australia, keeping true to its original roots. That powerful car of the Charger would live on, but not in North America. As the Daytona eventually replaced the Dodge Charger, even though the Daytona was a name of the original Charger, the Charger nameplate would eventually fall by the wayside. And by 1987, it was completely gone from the history books once again. In 1999, we were given our first glimpse at a new Charger. Dodge wanted to bring back its famous nameplate, but it wanted to do it with 4 doors. This did not appease anyone, considering the fact that the Charger, its original variation of the Barracuda platform, and even its Mitsubishi variation, were all 2 doors. The Charger was synonymous with being the Daytona Superbird, powerful and yet fast. How can you add an extra 2 doors to it? Well, it would be another 2 years before we actually saw the production model. And showcased by the Hemi 8 concept of 2000, Dodge would eventually give us a new Charger. And even though its 7th generation of the Charger would have 4 doors instead of 2 and not even have a coupe variation, that doesn't mean that 2 doors wouldn't be that far off. Custom builders West Coast Customs actually built a 2-door variation of the Dodge Charger to showcase to the world that Dodge could build a 2-door variation. Hell, they built a 2-door model for stock car racing, but they still wouldn't bring it out to the marketplace. The Charger was back, and it was trying to become this powerful vehicle by having both SRT8 models and the RT models, and also having a wagon variation under the Magnum name. Dodge was back, and Dodge was powerful, but they were only doing it in sedan form. The muscle and pony car era of the 1960s and 70s were long gone, but they needed something more. They needed to bring this back. Where its last variation in the 1980s only had a 1.6 liter or 2.6 liter inline 4-cylinder engines only, which meant no V8s and no slant 6s. And with only a hardtop or notchback, the Chargers and Challengers of the past that we remember were not what we remember. And this new sedan was not what we remember. It's not what we wanted. We didn't want a 4-door Charger. We wanted that 2-door behemoth. The one we remember from the Dukes of Hazzard. We also wanted that 1969 one from Fast and Furious. We wanted those Chargers. We wanted 2-door and horsepower. And the Fast and Furious franchise would showcase to us the greatest Charger of all time. But unfortunately, Dodge wouldn't get it, and they kept with their four-door model. And for 7 years, we had to wait. And unfortunately, a two-door Charger would never come to be. The Charger, in its two-door variation, would give way to the third generation of the Challenger. Made to compete with the new retro-inspired Mustang and Camaro, this brand new Challenger built off of the new existing Charger and 300 platform was here to compete once again against the original pony cars. Where the muscle car and retro era of the early 2000s was now behind us, the pony car era was coming back, and people wanted power. People started seeing that, yeah, gas is getting more expensive, but autonomous vehicles are on their way. We want to have some fun before we can't have any more fun. And so Dodge brought us our Challenger, but they didn't do it right. Just like the Charger with four doors, they didn't do it right. Why? Because they didn't bring us a convertible. The Challenger only ever had a convertible for 2 years. 2 years in its entire history. And yet, people still demanded it when it came out. Now, there are conversions companies that can turn it into a convertible. Hell, you can even go to your Mopar dealership and have your Challenger sent away to become a convertible. But straight off the production line, that does not exist. So where the Charger is only a four-door and the Challenger is now a two-door, they both can't compete the exact same way we all remember. So Dodge sat back and thought to themselves, how can we correct this? How can we make it better for people? Well, we'll throw an RT and an SRT variation at them, and we'll bring back some of the old colors, the Plum Crazy and Striker Green. We'll give them the colors and what they want. We'll make the Challenger they remember. We want to rewrite history and get rid of the second generation Challenger completely. We don't want anyone to remember that we once had a Mitsubishi-built Challenger and even Charger. We want everybody to remember these vehicles as being power vehicles. And so they did that. And the new Charger Challenger had come out. With its sibling, the 300, and being built in Brampton, Ontario, these three products were in high demand. And with little updates to any of them, except for a front fascia on the Charger, the Challenger never really going through any major changes. They all lived a long, illustrious life. From 2008 until 2024, the Challenger lived a great life, and it lived it beside its Charger counterpart. Being showcased once again in the limelight, the new Challenger was also being brought in to the Fast and the Furious franchise, where the original Charger and even the new Charger were being showcased in that franchise, bringing the movie power behind them. Unfortunately, a release with a new variation of the Dodge Charger and the Dukes of Hazzard movie never happened, and Vanishing Point hasn't returned. But buying and having your own white Dodge Challenger, being similar to the original Vanishing Point one, was still possible. But you can also do this with more powerful variations. And by the teen years, scat packages were coming out. And these scat packages were giving us more power. But people wanted even more. In 2018, Dodge finally said, enough is enough. We're going to give you what you want. We're going to make the Challenger what you remember, and more than what you really remember it ever being. In 2018, they gave us the Challenger Demon. At its time, one of the fastest quarter-mile production cars available on the market. After this, they created the Scat Pack and the wide body. They gave us Hellcats. They gave the Charger a Hellcat. They wanted to build the Charger and Challenger nameplates into the most powerful names in history. But why would Dodge want to do this? The world's going electric, and we all want power. Well, the rise of the electric car eventually showcased to us that there may not be a future for the Challenger-Charger combo. And after nearly 20 years in production, being one of the longest running platforms in Dodge's history, 2024 saw the end of production for the trio. The last 300 Charger and Challenger rolled off the line in Brampton, Ontario, and out into the history books. The Charger is remembered as one of the most powerful sedans of all time, with the Challenger going out with a bang with the Dodge Challenger SRT Demon 170, the fastest quarter-mile production vehicle available, covered under warranty, and bought from a factory. They wanted to give us the biggest bang we can ask for. Dodge went all out in ensuring that the last production V8 engine ever jammed underneath the hood of a Challenger would ensure that the Challenger nameplate would never be remembered as that Lamba platform one from the 1980s. And it would even make sure that the Charger sibling would live on in history as still being one of the most powerful muscle sedans in history. But as times were changing, so was Chrysler Corporation. And now being part of Stellantis, the Challenger-Charger combo was making its biggest change of all time. They were going electric. But Dodge didn't want to do this wrong. They wanted to ensure that when the electric variation of it came out, it still sounded like a powerful force on the road. And they created a speaker exhaust to give us that sound of a big burly V8 underneath the hood. Even though it's just a battery pack riding underneath of it, they wanted to ensure that this platform would live on and be remembered for what it was originally great at being. In the spring of 2024, we finally got to see it. The Challenger went out with a bang, and the Charger is what it gave birth to. The universe exploded on the Challenger, and the fragments from that exploded universe built a brand new Charger for the future, an electric variation of it, going back to its roots and bringing back the original design from 1969 into the world of today. The brand new Dodge Charger is gone all electric, and the Daytona RT package now comes with a V6. There is no V8. There is no SRT. There is no Hellcat. There is no Demon. The Demon has been put to rest, but the brand new Charger is here to stay. The Charger won the day over its Challenger comparison, where both of them were bred to compete in two different parts of the marketplace, and winding up joining at the hip in the 1980s. Will the Challenger come back as a counterpart to the Dodge Charger, or on its own platform in the future? And the Charger is bringing back one of its original product lineups, a two-door variation. But if you didn't know this, the original 1969 Charger was conceptualized as a sedan, and even built to be a sedan. If you watch the movie Bullet, you will actually see a four-door Charger in that movie. It was built as more of a touring power car and not supposed to be the balls-deep muscle car it became. The Charger was originally bred to be a power tourer. It tried to move into that in the 1970s, but people wouldn't buy into it. And by bringing it back as a sedan in the early 2000s, it kind of went back to its original roots. But people still demand that two-door variation. We wanted it. We saw the movie Christine, set in 1981. It had a 69 Charger in it. The Dukes of Hazzard had tons of them. Fast and the Furious had tons of them. We all want it, and our demands have finally been met. Unfortunately, it won't arrive with a V8 engine, and we'll have to get the electric if we ever want to hear something as powerful as the original V8. But our only question out of this sibling rivalry is Dodge may have won over the Challenger, but the Challenger will live on in infamy. The Charger will live on in a suburban lifestyle. Sure, it may look like a powerful, great sedan for the future, and it may have a coupe model. But when the Ford has the Mustang Mach-E, and Chevrolet is now considering building an active lifestyle variation of the Corvette, should the Charger have more variations? Should Dodge utilize the Charger nameplate to build either a cross-trekking version of it, or hell, bring back the Magnum? Give us a wagon again. I want power and substance. Should you have the Dodge Charger Magnum wagon and also the Daytona Superbird? The Charger and Challenger may have lost it in the 80s, their whole identity destroyed by a tie-up with Mitsubishi, but they were reborn for a new generation with power and substance. And even though the Challenger has gone out with a bang, and there may not be a future for it, not just yet, the Charger will keep its name going and keep it alive. Although Plymouth was gone and we were never able to get the re-release of our CUDA, similar to that of the Firebird, you can still actually get CUDA variations from a select group of companies in the States. You can get actual, straight from Mopar, you can get a CUDA front clip to turn your Challenger into a CUDA if you would like. But the Charger is all the Charger on its own. And being one of the most powerful names in the Dodge lineup, the Charger nameplate will live on forever. Only time will tell if both the Camaro and the Challenger nameplates can return in the future, maybe as either hydrogen or even electric variations for a future generation. These vehicles could make a comeback, but today is the Charger's day. Charger may have lost it at one point in time where the Challenger gained, but in the end, the Charger's loss has also become the Charger's gain. So if you like this podcast, please like, share, or comment about it on any of the major social feeds, streaming sites, or anything that you have found the AutoLooks podcast on. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, send us an email over at email@autolooks.net. And after you're done listening to this, send this off to your friends, send it off to your family, write us a comment, share it with us, and click the like button at the bottom in any of the major social feeds or streaming services you have found us on. Give us a quick like over on iTunes, and we'll keep in touch with you to send you all of the updates for new automotive podcasts that you might be interested in. Hell, even go to the AutoLooks.net website, find some of our past podcasts about the Dodge Charger and how it lost its image over the course of its lifetime and how it may regain it in the future. And after that, send this podcast out to people you don't like. Send it off to your boss, the guy that sits next to you that smells funny. Send it off to your in-laws that you're not too crazy about. Tell them about it and ask them. You might learn something about them that you never knew about before. Maybe they owned a Charger. Maybe they're more of a Challenger fan. But just send it off. Find out what people in your family are interested about. And after that, stop by the website, read some of the reviews, check out some of the ratings, and go to the Corporate Links website page. Big or small, we have them all. Automotive corporations from around the globe, all existing on the AutoLooks.net website. The AutoLooks podcast is brought to you by Ecom Entertainment Group and distributed by Podbean.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us, send us an email over at email@AutoLooks.net. So for myself, Everett J, the Ecom Entertainment Group, and the AutoLooks.net website, strap yourself in for this one fun, wild ride that the Charger Challenger nameplates will take us on.